Hello, everyone. Good morning. Oh, yay. All right. How incredibly exciting to be here in this way at the International Herb Symposium. Let me make sure my mail is turned off. I just realized yes, okay. I'm fully here with you then. So, good morning from all over the place. How exciting. It's really an honor and delight to be with you. As the only thing I can't turn off is messages that come in. I thought I was going to get to see you. Let me see if I can do gallery view. Apparently that's not an option. Okay. All right. Well, then I surrender. Um, Today would have been my beloved father, Irving Richard Bennett, born Balcover, would have been his 91st birthday. And so it feels very tender to me to be um, having this conversation with you. And I wish it was a conversation. So I invite you to have a conversation with me, even though apparently you're not, well, you can speak through the chat, right? But I won't try to monitor that because that will be too distracting. Oh, forgive me. For those who've never met me, hello, I'm Robin Rose Bennett. And I've been a student and lover of herbs and herbal medicine for over 30 years now. And you can learn about me from going to my website, and all that info is in the bio because I just want to make the most use of our time. This topic is so near and dear to me, herbs to deepen intuitive wisdom. So I'll cover what I can. Um, Let me come back to my dad in a moment. What I want to say at the outset is that, let me find this. Yes, okay. I want to say that, you know, intuitive wisdom comes from the one love. And all you beautiful plant people know that, well, I think you do, that the herbs heal not only through constituents and properties, but this is a blue violet leaf, sweet blue violet, right, in the shape of the metaphorical heart, not the shape of our actual physical heart, right? But the plants do heal through love. And in terms of our intuitive wisdom, the more we can center ourselves in the one love, the deep love that unites all beings, whether they know it or not, the more access we have to our intuitive wisdom. So I'd like to take a moment to join us in Sacred Circle. For those who have come live with me, thank you so much because, you know, even not seeing you, the energy of feeling that we're here together in a sacred circle, in a glade, in the forest, um, is helpful. And to those listening afterwards, welcome as well. So I'd like to take a moment to set a sacred space by welcoming in the medicine of the air in the east, the fire in the south, the water in the west, and the earth in the north. I ask that our circle its head I'm so sorry. I don't know if it's the troubles on my end or your end, but most of you probably know that Mercury is retrograde and, you know, the eclipses have just happened and it's a wildly energetic time. So I'm going to try to bring my energy in a little so I don't blow out the circuits and you do the best you can too. So I think what I'd like to do is to offer one simple song to continue this beginning invocation. We come from the one love, living in the one love. Go back to the one love. This is how we turn the world around. We come from the one love. Go back to the one love. Or better yet, let's stay in it. Turn the world around. Make a joyful sound. Turn the world around. Make a joyful sound. So thank you, Harry Belafonte. I took your beautiful invocation to the elements and I tweaked it a little for my desire to find that which unites us in the beginning. Oh, that's a real good question. Are you recording? I hope so. Okay. So intuitive wisdom. Give me a moment. I'm so filled with what I want to share with you that I have too many things in my head. So here we go. Will, people are saying it's not being recorded. I'm just wondering if I should pause. Okay, friends, then let Will do his job and you don't worry about it. You just open to receiving what we're going to create together. Yes, okay. So I'm a haiku writer, among other things that I write. And over the course of our time together, I'd like to share some relevant haikus with you. And one of them that is very relevant to our topic is called Unlock the Door. Enter into mystery. The door may be locked, but you were born with the key. Right. Enter into, somebody just asked me to back up. Okay, I hope that's better. Enter into mystery. The door may be locked, but you were born with the key. So that is where we're at, is we are born with the key, and I'd like to show you a couple things. Whoever told me I needed to back up to be seen, you can let me know if I'm doing that, if I am visible. So I wanted to share with you just a symbolic, so these are some roses that I pilfered from across the street and from my neighbor who's passed on, and he always let me gather, so I did. And what I wanted to kind of illustrate and have the plants illustrate is, so here's some of the roses I gathered from Greg's home that are in more full bloom. And here is here's some roses in various stages of budding. Right? These, they were all tightly closed when I picked them last night at dusk, by the way. So wherever you are, this is us. We're on this continuum of being opened to our inner wisdom, of having access to it, of being in habit of turning inward rather than outward. So I just want you to honor wherever you are on this continuum. So back to my dad for a moment. You know, it's funny. So some of you won't be watching this on June 12th, but today it is June 12th as I'm speaking, which, as I said, was my father's birthday. And, you know, I almost called my brother this morning and said, don't call me, I'll be in the middle of a webinar. But, you know, it's just this beautiful magnet that he literally sent the text message the moment I started speaking. So, why am I bringing up my father? Not just because I love him and I'm remembering him today, all right? But I'm bringing up my father, and let me share something here with you. My dad was a big user of herbs for the last decades of his life, and they lengthened his life, and they helped his life, and they helped him get off of heart medications and all sorts of other, arthritic medications and so on. So here's what I wanted to share with you. I said he'd be 91, my math. He would have been 96 today. And he's still here, of course, in spirit. So here's what I wanted to share and why I'm bringing this up. On October 17th, 1989, at 5:04 p.m. local time on the west coast of the United States, there was a large earthquake in San Francisco, in the Bay Area of California, right? And causing billions of dollars of damage. It lasted only 15 seconds, but it killed 42 people when the upper level of the San Francisco Oakland Bay Bridge collapsed during the quake. A 1.25 mile segment of the two-level viaduct collapsed because the upper level of the road crashed onto the cars on the lower level. On that day, October 17th, that year, my father was in San Francisco on a business trip, and he became very unreasonable with the fellow salespeople in the car. They had an appointment. They were supposed to cross the Bay Bridge and go to this appointment. And he kept making ridiculous, in retrospect, ridiculous demands that they stop and that they do this and they do that and they do this, and they were mad at him and they were yelling at him. This is what he told me later. Irving, what are you doing? Why are you going to insult our customer like this? And so on. And cut to the chase, they would have been on the upper level of the Bay Bridge when it collapsed. But because he held them up, not really knowing why he was being so ornery and unreasonable, they were not there. That was not the first time something like that happened for my father, but I like to think that his regular use of an herb like hawthorn that he was drinking for the health of his heart, and that gave, heart, so hawthorn can help us, obviously, to strengthen our hearts, to heal our hearts, to open our hearts. But also, hawthorn has that incredible magic of the thorns, right? That teach us how to watch out for ourselves, that teach us how to claim our space, to protect ourselves. I mean, they said he was so stubborn, right? So some part of him knew, maybe the hawthorn helped him to know. So I wanted to say that not only because it seemed so relevant, being that I'm sharing with you on my father's birthday, and I wouldn't be here if not for him and my mother, of course. But what is intuitive wisdom? I think that intuition is when we know something. Sometimes we know what it is we know. In that case, he didn't know what he knew, but he did. I know that sounds a little convoluted, but there you go. But let's say, for the purposes of the rest of our talk today, that I'm defining intuition as when we know something, but we don't know how we know it. We don't know why we know it. It's simply there. It's a given. It's something that's come to us. I know you shouldn't trust that person, but they've given me no reason. I know it's not fair that I say that, and yet I know. So here's the second part, is wisdom. So intuition does not necessarily give us wisdom. It's a road to it. The wisdom part of deepening the intuition comes with experience. It comes with practice. So intuition requires attention. The discernment that brings true wisdom comes with time, practice, experience, dedication, devotion, reflecting upon, and I ask you to do this right now, reflecting upon, you know, remember a time when you knew something and you did not listen. Maybe it was a small thing, maybe it was a big thing. The bigger it is, the harder it is for us to accept. You know, I was traveling in Greece and I knew, well, here, let me give you a moment to find your memory, what you know. Sometime you didn't listen. It could be as simple as, you know, I knew I shouldn't go down that street and now I'm stuck behind a car that broke down and I was on my way to see someone I really wanted to see, right? That kind of thing. Or it could be something larger. You know, I knew there was something wrong physically inside, and the doctor said I was fine, and I let it go for a year. Maybe I could have been working with herbs, taking care of myself and trusting myself, right? So small things, big things, but it's a part of life. Like all of life is a practice, is a engagement in how do we do this thing we call life. Um, so another little haiku for you. The secret of life comes with the price of admission today. The secret of life. The secret is not hidden. It waves. I'm right here. Love. And the world cracks open. The more we're in a place of love, which is not always sweet and not always saying yes, certainly not, right? But the more we're in that place of the openness of mind and heart that love brings, the more we hear, the more we can trust. And back to my point, which I think I didn't finish, I think I'm a little overly excited to be here with you. So I'm going to ground again, and is to say that intuition is not like some lovely, fluffy extra, right? I never, these phrases we use, extra sensory perception. Well, who said it's extra? It comes with the package. It's not extra. It's a part of us that we're here to develop. So intuition is not some la-di-da, fluffy, whatever, whatever. It's this thing that could not only enhance your life all the time, but like in that story of my dad, it's something that can save your life, right? It's something that can save your life. So instinct also can save our lives. Intuition is a little different. Instinct is like a physical body knowing, right? Oop, lost a feather. Intuition is a more cultivated attentiveness, best when coupled with creating relationship of language with your body, which will be utterly unique to you. You and your body can find and craft a language of how your body speaks to you. This is a time to walk away. This is a time to come closer. This is a time to risk it. This is a time to, that kind of thing. All right. So, I guess what I want to ask of you, so let's go back to you were remembering a time when you didn't listen. And if you still judge yourself harshly over that time, please cut yourself some slack. Please be compassionate. Give yourself permission to make mistakes. This is how we grow. This is how we learn. If you're going to look inside and look at your totality, you're going to find things where you were less skillful, where you were less kind, where you were less whatever, whatever. Um, it behooves you. I have found it behooves you very much so to make promises to yourself that you learn to keep, that you will be kind to yourself when you discover things about, yourself that you wish weren't so, and that this is what allows them to transform rather than beating yourself uphill and down dale and over the head and all of that about it. But you know that. I know you know that. We all know that. So if anything I've struggled with, you can get by osmosis. Here it is. I am so much nicer to myself than I used to be. And believe me, it makes life way better. way, way, way better. Um, so I have a long haiku about taking back our earth that I'm not going to share the whole thing with you here, but there is one it's a series of haikus that tell the whole story. But what I'd like to do is share one um, stanza or one haiku of it because it is absolutely relevant to the International Herbal Symposium, to United Plant Savers, to the theme of the forest. Yeah, bless all of you, all of us who are here and caring and wanting to develop ourselves so that we can turn things around. This is the great opportunity of the time that we're in. So, our sons and daughters need us to listen to the trees and then to speak the truths we hear. Our sons and daughters need us to listen to the trees and then speak the truths we hear. I bring this in because, again, intuition, inner wisdom is marginalized. It's seen as something foolish or, lesser. And the time to not, we have to not be concerned or care at all about being foolish. Adele Dawson, herbalist who I met when she was already in her 80s, said, the best protection, the way you're safest is let them think you're crazy. So let them think you're crazy. It's okay, really, it is. So listen to the trees and speak the truths you hear. So here we have, just going back a minute, reviewing the intuition, the inner wisdom, the intuitive access to the knowledge that comes from the one love is in all of us. We don't need to create this. It's already here. The wisdom develops from practicing it, from listening, from seeing where did I listen, where didn't I, what sent me on a good road and a less good road, so forth, so on, right? But all failure leads to success. So I have here a leaf from my beautiful, 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 hundreds of years old oak that I go visit. I stand with my front or my back to this tree. This is a way to work with tree medicine to deepen your intuitive wisdom. The first and foremost thing to develop your intuition with plants is to be with them, right? We can be with them outside. We can be with them through the teas we drink. We can bathe in teas we make with them. We can anoint ourselves with oils. We can, waft smoke from the dried plants. All of nature is just waiting for us to ask them to help us to awaken, all of them. So back to my beautiful, beautiful oak, which is in the craziest setting, like this giant parking lot. And one day I looked and, oh, wow, this oak is, anyway, love this oak. And when I need this oak, of course, this oak is there. And one of the times that I asked this beautiful tree for a message to share with a class, the oak said, joy is medicine. Joy is medicine. The oak also said, we can help you be strong. Turn to us, ask us. So these are both really important messages. One, we're not alone, right? Whether it's the violet, so the violet that wants to help you soften and trust your heart's knowing, or the oak that says, you're going to survive this, right? When I lost my beloved partner in a very swift illness and passing, the oak said, Robin, everything lives and everything dies, and everything lives and everything dies, and everything lives, and everything dies. And though that is clearly an obvious truth, it was so helpful. It is still helpful. I have just a week ago gone through a really heartrending loss. And I went to my oak and I cried. And, you know, there's a difference, and here's where plants are so brilliant. There's a difference between things being hard and things being wrong. So one of the things we want to do, or that I find so helpful to do with your work with your own intuition, with learning your own inner and physical language, is we need to get out of what we think we know, right? And so when my partner passed so quickly at such a young age, blah, 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 you know, so many people, oh, it's just wrong, it's just wrong, it's just wrong. Very easy to go there, so easy. But I want you to consider, to think about for yourself in this time when so much seems so wrong, you know, so wrong. I'm not going to dwell there, right? Because you know, we need to switch to a green economy. We need to care about our, you know. Uh, yes, let me not go there. Come back here. Because I just pulled myself out of the point I was making, but yes. If I'm battling with this should not be happening, this is wrong, I don't have my full capacity to find and create bridges to the solutions, right? Knowing something is hard is one thing, right? Loss is hard. Doesn't matter that we know they're here in spirit, right? It's still, we miss the physical. We're physical beings, right? So what I want to suggest to you is that the plants know how to be with what is and to help us be with what is. And the more we can do this, including being with how we are, where we're fabulous, where we're stuck, you know, where we're encouraged, where we're in despair, the more we can accept all of these parts, again, the more options we find, the more openings we find we have access to. And then everything is possible. Everything is possible, especially together, right? We are not going to heal this world and turn things around alone. We're not going to bring about, I call the time we're in, you know, well, the energy of the time we're in, the evolutionary chaos of now. The evolutionary chaos of now. This helps me to not be solely focused on the chaos of now, but on the fact that it is evolutionary, that things have to fall apart for new, beautiful things to, you know, to grow. And here we are. The plants are helping us to be the people we've been waiting for, who speak what we hear from the trees. And, you know, I think evolution sets us up to be a part of a huge growing or rising of consciousness, whatever, deepening, um, revolution. You know, we're kind of still in a fight. So I put this out for you to consider. We all have our own ways, but words do matter. Words do matter. So Oak said joy is medicine. So please take that in and find what, find what any given plant has for you. So here's what I want to ask you to consider. What is it that keeps you from accessing your own intuitive wisdom? It may be multi-leveled. It may be one specific thing. You know, I was shamed for this publicly when, you know, It could be anything. But the reason I ask you to consider this, and at the same time, go back and remember a time or another time that you listened to your intuition and how well it worked, what it opened up. Again, it could be a small thing or a large thing, um, right? But this way, if you are kind of paying attention, like, oh no, I don't care what anyone thinks, but for me, it's that my left brain, gets, in my way, right? But whatever it is, what I'm saying is there is a plant that can help you with that very thing. So, say for an example, another example, sometimes we're afraid to open. We're afraid what we'll hear. Well, we're afraid we can't handle knowing something. I want to bring in my so beloved Tsuga, arborvitae, tree of life, grandmother cedar, whatever we want to call her. And though I cannot give you the gift of a physical smudge, I can give you an energetic one. And I think you may be able to hear the wonderful sound that grandmother cedar makes when she burns. So I'm going to be quiet and light this, and let's see. I hope you hear that wonderful crackle that the grandmother cedar makes. And so this tree is a beautiful mountain of a tree, if you will, like when Rocio called in the Andes Mountains at the opening, that beautiful opening. So many things in the opening were beautiful. The invocation, the Thanksgiving, um, but she's a mountain of a tree. Um, in meditation. So one of the things you can do is burn the grandmother cedar and ask you, I love that, you're hearing it in Ontario, beautiful, I love Ontario. Um, you can ask grandmother cedar to help you feel safe enough to open. You can, um, so many ways, right? So, and you can apply what I'm about to say to different plants, right? So I burned the grandmother cedar. The only thing you need to know about burning a plant is that the plant must be dry. As far as I know, the plant always must be dry in order to burn and give us smoke. And smoke is a way to send messages, right, from physical to spirit. It's a beautiful way to give thanks, right? You can make requests as well, help me feel safe again, right? But always follow it, please, with, and thank you for helping me feel safe again, right? Or help me, whatever you're requesting, give thanks, give thanks. Vancouver. All right, so for example, now you can tell this is homemade from my fancy label, right? But it's a grandmother cedar ceremonial oil. It's not made in the traditional Anishinaabe way that beautiful Kiwe Denokwe spoke of at some of our conferences. She was such a beloved teacher for me. She was the person who said, among so many wonderful things, she said, of all the beings of the earth, of all the creatures of the earth, the plants have remained truest to their original instructions from Creator, which is to give of themselves generously for all the other beings. That was a pivotal thing for me to hear, which I hold dear, and I believe it's one of the first things I say in my first book, Healing Magic. So this is made in a simpler way, because that's what I do, where I ask permission from the grandmother cedar. Even asking permission of your plant before you gather will help your intuition grow, because you have to listen for the answer, right? Intuition requires being slow, quieting down, finding stillness. And if you're like, oh, what are you saying to me? I have 4 children. I never have a moment. You know what? I say, find 5 minutes. Start anywhere. But you must, I don't know any way to hear without making a quiet space for it. You know, and for some people, quiet space is through walking. They can't sit still. For others, it's through being still. Um, the point is the same. So I simply, I ask, and then I gather by hand. To me, that way I feel where the tree wants to be broken. Um, and Actually, a beautiful tip I have for you is this. The plants told me this, and then since that time, I've also heard others speak of it. I've heard curandera speak of it, and it felt so affirming. Um, so it is that when you're gathering, wherever you put your hands, your fingers, you ask that tree or plant to draw their breath, their energy. Use your own words. I'll say what I do. You know, I ask them to inhale their energy below my fingers, because my fingers are where I'm going to, um, receive their medicine. So I ask them to pull their essence below my fingers and yet give me the medicine I'm asking for in the part I'm going to take. And so it's amazing. Do try it. The difference in how the plant gives itself, the ease with which it comes, is you can't miss it. Again, practice, practice. I notice if I'm harvesting and I forget, my mind wanders, it brings me back, because suddenly this plant that was going, here, Robin, here you go, goes like, no, no, no. It's the plants, all the plants grow us. We grow them in our gardens, yes, yes, yes. But really, the truth is, the plants grow us. The plants grow us, and all plants are consciousness altering. I am focusing today on the ones that are gentler, theoretically, than the entheogens, than the iboga or the ayahuasca or our mushroom teachers. I'm focusing on the everyday plants that also bring healing to our bodies when we use them. So I really learned about grandmother cedar from Kiwe Dinokwe. I did see someone ask me to repeat her name, Kiwe Dinokwe, woman of the northwest wind. And so my oil, I've asked grandmother cedar, I've gathered my um, leaves, and then I break them up when they're fresh, ideally, is when I do it. I cover them with olive oil. Don't wash them first, and don't put them in a wet bottle. They'll just mold. Fill up the jar almost all the way, but fill it all the way with your beautiful olive oil. If you have a different preferred oil, go for it. But olive oil is really excellent for keeping that oil stable for years sometimes. Cap it and let it sit for at least a month before you use it. And you might want to sit it on a saucer, because it will, sometimes the gases in the plant will cause it to leak over the sides of the bottle as it's steeping. So grandmother cedar, making a strong tea, putting it in a bath. I do not recommend drinking a tea of grandmother cedar. This is a powerful, this is a potent herb to be used in small quantities in my experience. Others may disagree, because herbalists are famous for that. There's as many ways to use herbs as there are herbalists, I think, which is good, because as Rosemary Gladstar once said at one of these conferences, or maybe it was another one, I'm not sure, but she said, listen to all your teachers until you're so confused, you finally decide you're going to make it your own. And Rosemary, I'm paraphrasing you, but it was hysterically funny. You're going to make it your own and learn how it works for you. But all of it is a process, and we're all always, always, always learning. So I use the Tsuga in tincture form, well, Tsuga or Thuja. I'm talking about Thuja. I think Tsuga is a slightly different tree, right, the hemlock. But when I'm using grandmother, thank you for saying that. When I use grandmother cedar internally, I do use it in a tincture form as well, in small doses. So oil for anointing, what Kiwe Denoque said was the traditional use was to anoint, one of the traditional uses was to anoint the life spot right here with the grandmother cedar. Again, a plant to help you be in divine alignment. And many of our favorite place up at where the International is held when we're in person in Wheaton, Mass, is this beautiful double line of grandmother cedars that one can walk through. I always would visit that place when I'd go to the conference live. So oak, stability, endurance, strength. Also, oak is, yes, I do spiral around. Oak is a doorway, right? It's a very classic doorway into interior realms. Doer is the Celtic, maybe I'm mispronouncing it, but it's a doorway. So oak can help you. How? Again, in a bath, standing with the tree, drinking some oak bark. I did that yesterday. I've been, drinking herbs, preparing to get kind of in the place of intuitive wisdom to share with you today. And yeah, so those are some options. One thing about working with tree medicine I want to share with you, it's a fairly new learning for me, a new practice, and I've shared it with students who've come back to me to say it's been very meaningful to them to help them hear. And when I say hear, I'm going to come to the practice in a second, but I just want to clarify that when I say here, I don't necessarily mean here only. I mean, I really ought to have looked at the notes that I carefully made for today, where I was going to, at the beginning, kind of outline the very basic principles I was coming from, but I didn't do that. I didn't look at them. So what I would have said at the beginning is that it's not only like visualizing that your intuition comes to you in an image, right? So intuition, again, is as unique as any of us is. And so you might feel things, get a feeling sense. I'm often that person. You might hear things. You might see. You might kinesthetically, right? Kinesthetically get your messages. And or I've been scolded by spirit who said, you don't always have to look inside, look outside. We'll send you signs. You don't have to work so hard. So you may also, your intuition may be prompted from things you see outside that appear, magically, synchronistically, just when you're asking something that appears to answer your question. Okay. So, yeah, yeah. So the tree practice is to kind of, and you can never go wrong by giving an offering to a tree or plant that you are looking to learn from, right? Introduce yourself, be polite, and yeah, seriously. And you might walk around the tree and find where you want to lean your back against the tree. Many of us, we're tree huggers, and stone kissers. We love to hold the trees, or if they're huge, to hold around as much as we can. But there's also a beautiful practice of finding a spot on the tree that's a little warmer and putting your back to the tree there. I've heard it said, trying to remember who was the Mohawk woman who shared this, but I heard it said from wonderful Matthew Risen of Healing Spirits, to find the tree's breathing spot. So walk around the tree, feel a warm spot, lean back there. The additional practice that has come to me recently that's been very fulfilling has been to keep one foot on the earth and the other foot, bend your knee and put that foot flat against the trunk of the tree. And I invite you to experiment and play with trying it with, one foot on the tree and the other. It's very interesting. It's like it gives you a different energetic access. And always ask the plant and the tree if you may merge with them, if you may blend with them. They almost always say yes. I mean, you're not going to put your back against like my favorite hawthorn tree that has thorns everywhere. But years and years and years of working this one tree, when I was there this spring to gather blossom, she said, "There's one spot. You can find it." And I did. And there I was leaning between these giant thorns. It was really a great experience. And it wouldn't have been if I had moved over a half an inch in either direction. So, um, and if you're like, I don't, well, how will I know? You don't know. You don't know if you're in the right place. You don't know if what you heard is real or you're making it up. Here's the thing, uncertainty opens doors, right? And so it's certainty slams them shut, just in the same way of that analogy I was saying, when we say that's wrong, you shouldn't do that, it shouldn't be happening. I understand feeling that way, believe me, I do, but it slams the doors shut. This is hard. How am I going to find a way to reach this person doing thus and so? That opens doors. That opens doors. And I think we need to open doors. So oak helps us open the doors. Uncertainty allows new things to come in. I used to know so much more than I know now. So that's pretty great, because it means I'm more open to learn. Uh, so, so wisdom is also, right? There's the intuition and then there's the wisdom, the deepening of the intuitive wisdom. Wisdom, wi- wisdom is also, what do you do with what the plant shares with you, right? What do you do with what the plant shares with you? That's part of the wisdom. So now let me share about a few more plants, which I know you're happy for me to do. So the queen of the herbs that helps to open what is commonly called our third eye, but I call it our first eye, right? The eye that sees true, the eye that sees beauty, the eye that sees that something is forming in the chaos, right? This is Artemisia vulgaris, right, with her silver-backed leaves that tell us of the moon and lunar and deep feminine wisdom for any and all genders or non-genders. Artemisia vulgaris. And I like to look for the scent. This is Artemisia vulgaris, commonly called mugwort in wise woman tradition. She was renamed by Susan Reed as cronewort. I like that. I like grandmother wort. This is, in the Anglo-Saxon traditions, they called her eldest of worts, eldest of the weeds. Here's how I think of Artemisia vulgaris. She's like the tree of the plant world. She's so venerable. She's like a tree of the plant world. And Artemisia, I like to look for a mirror in the physical medicine of a plant with the spiritual medicine of a plant. To me, that's like the gold standard of what I'm gleaning or someone has taught me. That's the gold standard of whether it's truth or whether it's a pretty concept, or we're psychic woo-woo, that means nothing. Um, Life is magical enough. Reality is multidimensional enough. I don't need to make stuff up. I want the real magic, right? And the real magic is this interconnected web that we're part of, and that everything is part of this movement in this time to reweave, right? The web of healing, the to restore, right? The compassion, the respect, our web of life with as much joy as we possibly can, which does not preclude our grieving. Our grieving is a piece of it. If we repress our grief, then we can't find our joy. But joy is large enough, true joy is large enough to hold it all. True joy holds the grief. contains it. And then when we open ourselves again, the joy is still there. It's still there. So, and the plants, what is definitely, the plants are who have brought me to this knowing. It's been a journey. It's been a real journey. Yeah. So Artemisia, I like to do anything from, rubbing the leaf and smelling it, moving into meditation with a beautiful, here, try that way, right? A beautiful first eye adornment, right? See, right away that shifts things inside. Um, I could have done this whole talk with this. I would have talked slower, more slowly. The physical medicine of Artemisia, right, tones and strengthens the nerves, many other things, but just for this topic, tones and strengthens the nerves and improves brain function and memory. Vast amount of minerals in this plant. I don't use the Artemisia in vinegar as an intuitive medicine. I'll tend to do this kind of thing, or here's a magical Artemisia tincture I made, and I might put that in water, or perhaps, put a drop on my hand and take it in that way. That's very good. If I use it for medicine, I'm going to put it in water. But the vinegar is a great way to get the minerals. And there is a piece of practicing to deepen and develop or cultivate, right? It's the intuition is innate, but the cultivation of it is what makes it a real life skill, right? Language skill, relationship skill, activist skill, so on and so forth. Um, hang on. There was something, the Artemisia, cultivating. Wow, just went out. Ah, yes, I have it. See, I surrendered. I find that practicing self-care is definitely related to this issue of deepening, this gift of cultivating and deepening our intuitive wisdom skills. If I'm really running myself ragged, I can't listen. And I don't think you can either. So, because there's been a deep loss recently in my family, self care is strongly on my mind now. And in fact, all week as I was trying to prepare for this class, I kept finding myself thinking about things I wanted to talk about self care. And then I remembered, oh, my recorded class for IHS is on radical self care. So that satisfied me greatly to remember that. But nonetheless, it also is true that for many of us, the challenge to hearing our wisdom has to do with our nervous system being so fried, and agitated. So taking care of the nervous system, right? This is a great plant for that, as well as for deepening dreams, daydreams, night dreams. I call Artemisia the intoxicant that helps us to remember, right? To remember the deepest dreams of our heart. And then in that brilliant, multi-talented way plants have, when we use Artemisia in our food and in our drink and in our vinegars and so on, she also helps give us the strength and stamina and smarts and flexibility to bring those dreams into being, right? No plant does just one thing, though they do have particular gifts to share, certainly. I'm going to go through a little faster so I get to a few more plants, I think. I think I will. If you can't shut your mind off because you're worried about things. You're just too worried all the time. And how could you possibly quiet down and find an answer because you're too worried? Um, and always you'll use the species of plants or trees that are growing where you live, right? I'm not saying, of course, you can buy herbs, you can support the wonderful herb businesses, who are sponsoring our conference and the other beautiful small, family-based herbal companies that abound. I have lists of them on my website, by the way, too, and lots of good free information there as well on robinrosebennett.com. All my contact stuff is in the bio. Um, so a plant that I particularly love for learning to stand your ground so that you're not pulled off into all your worries and is burdock root, right? Burdock root. So here's a beautiful kind of cool bottle of burdock root tincture. Oops, there we go. Burdock root tincture. And did you see that? Year made in 2011. Burdock root tincture. That's 10 years old. Oh, let me see. Hang on. Oh, yeah. It's beautiful. Smells like good autumn burdock. So, in my book, The Gift of Healing Herbs, my second baby, I refer to burdock as the plant that helps us go from being a warrior to a warrior. It goes from being a warrior to a warrior. I'd like to update that because I am seeking to eliminate all military metaphors in my language. So I no longer use the word warrior, as honorable as it is, and I do understand, the way of the peaceful warrior and all of that, truly. And I suggest guardian. Everywhere I see that I've used the word warrior and others use the warrior, the word guardian works beautifully. It has a different connotation. So I offer that to you. So burdock. Burdock is a wonderful grounding guardian. Um, and maybe it's even like you've had an intuition about something and everybody that loves you or, that you love is telling you, don't do that or you're wrong or that's too risky or whatever, right? Maybe burdock can be one that will help you stand with that deep root that will help you stand your ground, right? I don't know why this is a good idea. I know it sounds crazy. I'm doing it. Support me if you can. If you can't, could you just be quiet, or your version of that. It's amazing how people always know what's better for you than you do, right? Even if their own lives are a mess. So, if you don't have a sense of humor, you're sunk. Get a sense of humor. What plant helps us with that? Well, that would probably be our mushrooms. But here we go. Ginkgo. Ginkgo biloba. Ginkgo biloba. Come to me. Ginkgo biloba. Ginkgo biloba leaves I picked from my trees today. Look at those deep, deep lobes in that one. This is such, the oldest flowering tree on the earth, right? Ginkgo biloba is evolving just as we are. So many years ago, many, many years ago, in Central Park in New York City, where I lived for my first 10 years as an herbalist, New York Magazine back then said, the Green Witch of New York, and that label kind of stuck, even though I haven't lived in New York in decades. People still say that, which is kind of fun. Older still than the ginkgo, I'm coming back, but older still than the ginkgo is our beautiful pine. This is a white pine from my white pine tree. Beautiful, soft needles. And this tree, the reason I brought it in right now is this is even more ancient than the ginkgo biloba, right? This was prior to the broadleaf trees, right? When we had needles. I don't know if what I'm about to say is true, scientifically, but when I look at the ginkgo leaves, and especially when I touch them, when I run my finger or nail over them, it feels like a bunch of joined needles. So I imagine, right, the evolution of how the trees went from this to this. That ginkgo represents that. So years ago in Central Park, I stood with my back to a tree, and the tree said, "Yes, yes, tell them to eat me and drink me, my leaves. I wait here in my ancient form to awaken the parts of your mind that you have never used before." So, and look at the evolution of consciousness that has happened in these 30 years. It's quite profound, just as, of course, there is this powerful movement to hold on to the devastating and deadly and destructive status quo that we've lived within. There is this enormous rising, this enormous rebirth of consciousness going on that we are creating together, and that we must hold each other through and hold each other up so that we hang in there. This is the stickiest part. This is the stickiest part. So yeah, so the ginkgo biloba, right? The two lobes of the brain, bringing together the left and the right, the logic and the intuitive. Yes, all of that, absolutely. But I think there's much more. There's much more. I've always been so intrigued by the fact that we don't use approximately 98% of our brains. Clearly, some people use just the tiniest bit of it. But that by and large, humans don't use the vast majority of our brains, and nature doesn't just put something there for no reason. So it's time to awaken more faculties, and this intuitive awakening is part of that. It's part of that. So ginkgo biloba can be so helpful when you're looking to, for me, the medicine, you again find what it is for you. For me, it's like I want to access ancient memory, when I want to go way back and find to inform me in the present. Ginkgo is my herb of choice. I also love ginkgo for sacred ancestor work, right? On Samhain, and when the veils are at their thinnest, right? On secularly known as Halloween, I will typically put ginkgo biloba into the infusion, right? To help open the doors for the ancestors to come through. And perhaps not only our physical bloodline ancestors, our spiritual ancestors, and not only our human ancestors, right? But our plant ancestors, our animal ancestors, our mushroom, our stone ancestors, right? Open the doors to ancient wisdom. In addition, because ginkgo biloba was the first tree to come back after the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima to end World War II in a horrific act. This is a survivor tree. So this is a good medicine. Um, this is a good medicine for now. This is a good medicine for this time we're in. Um, yeah. Okay. One more thing about beloved ginkgo biloba, right? Biloba. What I've been noticing over these last years is how many of the ginkgo bilobas are developing trilobes and four lobes. So I believe this is, so here's one that's starting to, if I hadn't picked it, it's going to get deeper. Here's one that's starting, but I've seen them where there's really like four lobes of this depth, of this, with this level of leaf sinus. Um, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, right? Wake up, wake up, wake up in the mind, in the mind. There was something I heard recently that was a scientific clinical test. I don't recall if it was some study through the NIH, but it was some august, agency such as this. And the cutting to the chase, an opera singer was singing an aria, and they were testing to see what parts of her brain lit up when she sang the aria. And then and some parts did, right? Let's make up a number, say it was 2 or 3. And they were able to map this, right, through the wonders of technology that have us together here in the magic Zoom portal. But then they had her imagine singing the aria, and her entire brain lit up. Her entire brain lit up. I'll just leave you with that. No comment. All right, one comment. Our minds are powerful, powerful. And what we create in our minds with clear hearts from love absolutely can influence and shift and transform our lives and the world around us. Pine, white pine, beautiful, ancient, hundreds of millions of years old. Pine is, well, to the native people of the Northeast where I live, the Northeast US, I live in New Jersey with a protected state forest at my back door, which is such a blessing, and a little neighborhood in the front. I feel like it's a good place, right? I'm like the gate to bring the people to the wilderness and the wilderness to the people. But the white pine is, to the native peoples of the Northeast, is called the tree of peace, right? The tree of peace. So white pine will help us breathe through the difficult places. White pine will, well, it's really good for our lungs, which is important medicine right now too. But the tree of peace, the tree of working together. So I look at the plants, metaphorically. So again, that the physical medicine, spiritual medicine, the ginkgo that stimulates ancient mind is also a plant that oxygenates the brain. The ginkgo that is a survivor, physical tree. Well, I don't want to diss pine. Let me come back to pine. Pine, that's the tree of peace spiritually, and we have to really be in some degree of peace, usually, to hear. I mean, sometimes our intuition can have a surge in a desperate moment, a terrified moment, but that's not a sustainable kind of, I mean, it's great, thank you very much, right? But it's what I'm hoping to help you with here is plants and practices and ways to cultivate a sustainable, intuitive element of being in your everyday life. Because it also is another way to stay connected to the reality of spirit and the reality of air, fire, water, earth, the reality of our guardians and our angels and our plant teachers, our healers, the plants, the trees, the forest, to stay connected to that always, always, throughout all of the dramas of the day, all of the dramas and melodramas of the day. That we can hold this peaceful place with the help of a plant like white pine. We can hold this peaceful place that helps us to hold the big joy that makes the kind of shifts that we want to help bring into our world through our actions, however smallly focused or hugely focused, that makes them irresistible, uh, which is much easier to invite people to want something they find compelling and irresistible and intriguing than it is to bludgeon them. You have to change, you have to change, you have to change. It doesn't work. It does not work. So pine, again, you can dry it and burn it. I have no idea what that sound is. I'm sorry. It's something going by. You can burn it. I love to make white pine needle oil. You can drink pine infusion, get in a pine bath. These are kind of my overall preferred ways to hang with the tree or plant, to sit and write. This plant says, this plant says, this plant says, this plant says, without lifting your pen off the paper. Do that form of automatic writing or writing with your non-dominant hand. This plant says, this plant offers, whatever. You just, to cut out the censor, right? To cut out the censor. And, finally you'll get so bored writing this plant says, this tree says, that something else will come out. And you might just give yourself, like, I'm going to go for 5 minutes, or I'm going to go for 1 page. Or maybe you prefer to draw, right? And that will open doors. It's all about opening the doors of perception. Hello, Aldous Huxley. Opening the doors of perception, learning to discern truth from wishful thinking and truth from fearful thinking. In those things, the learning how to tune to your body, to listen to your body is most helpful. Body always tells the truth. I mean, sometimes we feel like, oh, every part of me is shaking, but if we're in anxiety, not a bona fide danger, if we can get quiet, tune to our breath, right? Or put our psychic root in the earth or roots in the earth, we'll find that if we check here in the solar plexus, if you can't see me, I'm touching the solar plexus, right? If we touch here, if that is really tight, I learned this from Twyla Nitch, Seneca elder. Yeah, we know two wolves. Thank you, Twyla. If the pulse is like right there in the solar plexus, pay attention to it. But if it's not, if it's anxiety and it's not a real terror, a real danger, I mean, there'll be a little bit of peace right in that spot. I have found this incredibly useful in moving from living in a state of kind of constant anxiety inside, no matter what brave, adventurous things I did for most of my life, to living in a very different way. Thanks to coming home into my body, right? And finding joy, right? I always thought spirituality or all I was interested in really was, oh yeah, let me be up and out there. But no, I want to be like the tree now, roots down, channeling earth, branches up and out, channeling, the heavens, right? This is all of us. We are very much like trees, Um, so the plants can really help you as they've helped me. And I say this because I've worked with so many people and I know it's not just me. Um, to come into joy in being a human being in a body on the earth in this wild time that we've all decided to be here for together, to be part of creating solutions, listening to our elders, listening to the children, listening to the plant people, to ally with all that is, to turn things around in the name of the one love, right? In the name of whatever you hold dear and beloved. And I think I can safely say, that this theme of the forests are so um, beloved, right? Forest bathing, official formal medicine in Japan, right? I love that. It makes me laugh though. Um, daisy, daisy medicine. If you just find yourself really cynical, jaded, turned off, hang out with some daisies. They will help that mm, delight to rebloom, as does plantain, plantago, magus, or lanceolata, but beautiful, simple, everywhere under your feet. Plantain, that's her hidden secret medicine. She awakens your openness to life again and again. Let me just say it, physical medicine. Where's the physical mirror of this? Spiritual medicine. Physically, I have used plantain more than a couple of times to help infants who were not doing well and who were diagnosed as failure to thrive. Plantain has helped them every time to come back, to begin gaining weight and so on. So what is a shutting down of the heart and mind to the possibilities of life that you can shift, that I can shift, that we can help turn things around, right? That's a failure to thrive. And it becomes, of course, a self-fulfilling prophecy. So there's that spirit medicine. So when I take in my plantain in my salad or in my tincture, or if you're doing it as a ritual, right? Because sometimes with deepening intuitive wisdom, you're doing it as a ritual so that it becomes threaded through every moment of life. Then you might use it in a little bit of a different way. Or you might stand outside and put your feet on a couple of plantain plants and say, fill me with new sense of the possible, right? The first plant that ever called me came to me in a dream, or at least that I'm aware of, before I began studying herbalism as a younger woman, was the elder. So I just wanted to bring her in, her leaves. She's just about, the flowers are in little buds now, but elder tells me that she is a guide, specifically a guide through the chaos of transformation, and certainly helps be a bridge to um, your ancestors, and to bring forth wisdom that you may need. We all need. All need all the help we can get, isn't it true? Um, so I want to also talk to you again a little bit of metaphor medicine to think about when you see what plants do you want to turn to. So here is some grape that I gathered this morning, and of course the incredible tenacity of the tendrils of the grape, right, that hold on. So here's maybe a medicine that could help with this. This is a brand new thing. This insight came to me this morning. Um, Maybe this is a great medicine to help me know what I want to hang on to, what's essential to me to hang on to, and what everything else I can let go if I need to, right? Because grape has that, just grabs on to everything. And maybe that's part of the teaching as well. Don't grab everything, right? We don't have that many tendrils, right? So don't grab everything. But grape is also, grape is also a medicine that, because it's so helpful to circulation, can help you move things you need to move, maybe even mentally, emotionally. Um, I wanted to mention, I think I'm almost done. Um, you didn't tell me how long to do the class for, by the way, so I'm just talking away. St. John's wort, Hypericum Perforatum, is such a beautiful spirit medicine. I say St. James teaches us how to live on the yeah, yeah. Somebody just wrote, Joni, grape leaves, tendrils are tasty too. Every part of grape is super tasty as far as I'm concerned. I am absolutely committed to helping revive the grape as a profound, abundant, wild medicine, right? The Vikings called North America the land of wild grapes. There's so much grape medicine. You can look in my book, or you can look on my YouTube on grape. But yeah, grape medicine. St. John's wort, St. Joan's wort, St. J, whatever you want to call this plant. I don't have her in flower yet, but this is not Hypericum perforatum, which is a beautiful plant for helping us live on the sunny side of the street, come out of the shade sometimes and brighten our spirit, which again, if your spirit is feeling really crushed or dimmed or squelched or dampened, you're working too much or you're reading too much news or whatever, you've been to one too many protests lately, uh, um, whatever. St. J's can help you kind of bring back some light so that you can go to the next one with a more vibrant sense of the possible. So, but this is not Hypericum perforatum. This I brought in because it is, let's see if I can remember, Hypericum androsaemum. Hypericum androsaemum. Favorite nickname for me of this one is sweet amber, or Toutsan from the French Toussainte, all heal. So it's not Prunella vulgaris, all heal. It is a different all heal. And any plant that has traditionally been called all heal is, you know that there's powerful medicine. And what I wanted to show you is that even in leaf, not in flower yet, this plant has an amazing amount of that beautiful red. So what I want to say is, if you're feeling like, oh my God, I just can't stop crying, or I have no energy, and of course, you look to the physical reasons as well. It's like, well, are you eating well, and are you resting, and so forth. But if you're dragged down, um, this is a plant I would suggest you can use to increase your fire. It's not heating in the body. It's not like ginger heating, but it increases your fire. It increases your light. And what my students, my apprentices, heard along with me, we all heard a variation of it in meditation with this sweet amber, Hypericum, is that this plant is spreading wildly right now. I know, it's, of course, in some places they call it an invasive, a pest, a this, or that, to bring more light to all the plants, to bring more light to all the plants, so that as we take them into ourselves in smoke or drink or food or water baths or foot baths or whatever, or meditation, breathing, right? The simplest, breathing with the plant, taking the time to do that, to send your breath to the plant and inhale what the plant is exhaling and being in gratitude. That's a beautiful way to have the plants help you grow yourself, your intuitive wisdom. This was, if you look up sweet amber St. John's wort, you'll find it, but it is the Latin, or botanical Latin, is Hypericum androsaemum, Androsaemum. Okay, I made myself memorize that for today. So one person just pleaded that I talk about motherwort, and she was so beautiful in flower today. And I said, no, you're for self-care. So, but because you asked, I am going to, I think, conclude with Leonoris cardiaca, the lion-hearted one, the lion-hearted one. Such a vital ally. I don't know how I ever got along without her, for sure. Motherwort. So this bitter mint family plant that is such a helper for anxiety, for really in terms of heart issues of rhythm disruptions in the heart. Motherwort is so helpful for. In this topic, here's what I would like to put into the mix. One of the ways that I used to shut down more was by being so resentful of what I considered the unnecessary cruelties and harshness of life, right? Because in my judgment, I know what's necessary and what isn't. I just turn off so much. So I began to nibble motherwort leaves because they're so bitter. And just as motherwort helps digestion, even though it's not typically written up that way, motherwort helps digestion as a powerful bitter mint. Ritually, I like to turn to motherwort to help me. She has helped me greatly, still in progress, to learn to assimilate and digest the bitter aspects of life, right? Both the necessary, what I see, as the inevitable necessary, like death and loss. This is built in, right? And the unnecessary. But even just start with the necessary, with the part of the life cycle, the winter that turns to spring, the death that leads to rebirth. This can be a bitter part of life for us, right? We lose loved ones. It's hard. Or, we get sick or they get sick, right? Bitter parts of life that always grow us. Always, if we let them. So this is motherwort medicine, right? These are the things that grow our compassion. These are the things that help us remember we're all in it together, to take care, to take care of one another. So that's what I'll say about motherwort medicine. Okay, so I think I'm going to, let's see, maybe a haiku, faith. Planting seeds in the garden, evidence of faith in a delicious future. I think that might be a lovely place to end. I had a long list of plants I didn't get to, but I did cover a lot of them. Um, you know, the roses in the beginning, like the hawthorn, bring that medicine of opening the heart, and having the thorns to help us know what to say yes to and what to say no to. So, in conclusion, just take a moment to let's breathe together. And let's know that we are together creating a beautiful web of healing, healing wisdom, healing practices, generosity, because these energies that I called in the beginning, the air, the fire, the water, the earth, the below, above, and the center of love, these are who we are, writ larger, right? So breathe them into yourself, right? Breathe these energies into yourself. The illumination in the east, the wonder and curiosity and passion in the south, the dream and vision and trust and releasing in the west, and the abundant generosity and medicine of the north, the reality of the invisible beneath and below us, within us, the 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 reality of the unifying, expansive picture when we look from the cosmic perspective from above, and remembering that we also come from the stars, we come from the earth, and we come from the stars. Elder told me she comes from the earth and the stars too. And then centering back in wherever that center is for you. Um, you know, here's what I'd like to put in to our circle. The center you hold is utterly unique. The center of the circle is where the uniqueness that each one of us is meets in the oneness of all of us together. Yeah? So when you are doing your practices, breathe the center of oneness to feed the center of uniqueness that you are, and know that everything you do from your unique center, right, feeds the oneness as only you can, as only you can, and we're all needed. So our love and gratitude to the powers that be that joined us together in the beautiful circle in our perhaps imagined forest glade. Our thanks to center, above, below, earth, water, fire, and air. And I'm just going to sing us out with a chant that I wrote, and Will, you can cut it off whenever you're ready, all right? We are one with the soul of the earth, Mother Earth. We are one with the soul of the earth, Mother Earth. So much love to all of you. Strength, hang in there. We are one with the soul of the earth, Mother Earth. Green blessings, much love. And Will, I hope that the chat will be available with the recording, because I would love to hear what people were saying or asking. And enjoy this conference. It is mind-bogglingly rich. I am very excited to take classes and watch movies and learn. So thank you so much for all of the organizers and for the generosity of keeping everything available for so many months for us, and for your hard work, Kelsey and Kristen and Will and Susan, all the organizers. So here's to blessings to you and to United Plant Savers and all of the plants, trees, all of the beings. Blessed be.